The community had indicated its support for a community college in the so-called Harvard report.
The Valley and the decision that had two key components, and that was that this college would provide a liberal arts education for those that wanted to transfer, and it would provide 2-year skill sets for students that wanted to get a job.
And this community really got together and decided they're going to do this.
In December of '56, we voted to sponsor Corning Community College. I think it's one of the most important decisions the school board has ever made.
When the community college movement started, Arthur Houghton was determined that we were going to get one.
You can see that you couldn't have had the college without the Houghton family.
I always felt that Arthur was responsible for the whole college.
I think they saw the importance of this kind of educational institution and in the environment where their headquarters were.
I got a phone call from Fred Parsons, who was chairman of the board at that time. He said, would I be interested in coming back to talk to them about possibly being president of this new college? Think about it. Who gets a chance to start a college? I actually spent a couple of days reading the New Yorker. I didn't know what to do. There was no school, there was no courses, there was no catalog, there was no faculty, there was no students, there was nothing. There was 9 anxious trustees and me.
There was a backlog of students, and some of them very good and very motivated, who had just been waiting for the chance to go locally.
One day, a boy came in from Lindley to the school, and he said, are you the president of the college that they're going to have? And I said, yes. I says, so what can I do for you? And he said, well, I think I'd like to go to it. He said, what courses are you going to have? And I said, I don't know. We don't have a catalog. What would you like to take?
The genius of our first president, Bill Perry, in that he was able to charm the community into acceptance of this college. But more importantly, he was a firm believer that we were only as good as our faculty. And he went out and he really found some excellent first-time faculty for this place.
I was the first one hired, and evidently I heard later that after I signed the contract, he called the Board of Trustees together, he gave them a swift drink and said, I've got a University of Chicago PhD.
I think Walter came a year later in history.
And I finally got someone who thought they had heard of it and said it was at the top of Chemung Street. And so I drove up for an interview. I honestly almost didn't get out of the car. I thought, well, this doesn't look like very much. And Bill Perry was so full of enthusiasm and talked about what fun it was starting a new college and what was apt to happen and some of the adventures ahead. And I decided to give it a couple of years.
And he's still here.
They didn't go through committees. Nobody interviewed you except Bill Perry.
And the main thing he promised me is, you have free reign. You can write your own courses. And believe me, that appealed to me.
The mathematics, I thought, oh, geez, I've got to get somebody pretty good for that, because with all these science people at the Corning Glass Works research and I don't know what all, we got to really... So I went to MIT. I stopped the boys in the corridor during a class break. I said, who's the best math teacher you got here as freshmen? Well, they said Herb Gross. You can't beat Herb. So I looked up Herb Gross and sat down and I had to talk with him right there at MIT. And I said, I know you might not be too interested, but I was wondering if you'd like to be the head of the math department at Corning Community College. Well, he said I'd have to come out and see it. Carolyn had prepared a wonderful dinner. In fact, it was roast pork. And we didn't realize that Herb was Jewish. As he was shaking goodbye that night and had accepted the job, he says, "You know, that was the best roast beef dinner I ever ate."
There were 300 students at that point. The total of faculty was 20, which a group of people who could fit around a dining room table.
School 3 had been empty for perhaps 20 years.
We had a lounge in what used to be a coal bin, and that's what we called it, the coal bin.
That's where I met my wife and sat and had great philosophical debates every day.
I started working at what is called the Houghton House across from CFA. It was the college library at the time.
I remember one student said, "Well, where's the library?" And I said, "Well, it's the first classroom on the right when you go in the door." Well, he says, "I've been in there. There's only about 100 books in there."
And Bill Perry paused a minute thoughtfully, removed his cigarette.
I said, "Well, when you get them read, we'll get 100 more."
In the beginning, we had offices in number 3 school. You know, one office was in the coal bin. There was another office that was in the boys' room.
The first dean, Jack Deringer's office, was in the men's lavatory in the public school building, so we used to kid him about having the only tiled office.
We had the Glass Center Auditorium. That was for our graduation ceremonies. The old armory, the drill hall, was used for all the final examinations.
The following year, I think we doubled or tripled the student body, so we had to get another building, which was, fortunately, Arthur Houghton's house on 3rd Street was available. Biology, chemistry, and physics were in his 3-car garage. And I always thanked him for having a 3-car garage, because I thought if anything blew up, it wouldn't take the rest of the campus with it.
It was challenging, but we had really excellent teachers.
And of course, we went to all of the activities. It wasn't just a faculty activity or a student activity, it was faculty-student. We went on hay rides, we would go to the dances.
We had a great time doing quite a bit with very little to work with.
For me to go to my psychology class, I had to walk through another classroom, which was simply a bedroom, another bedroom adjoining that. But so you walk through from room to room to get to your own classroom. So you were sure not to arrive late.
I got in a little trouble with the first dean, and I took my contract in unsigned. And Bill said, "What's the matter, Walter?" And I said, "Well, I just don't think I'm going to stay. I'm not getting along with the dean. I'm not a morning person." And I had 8 o'clocks every day. So the dean was on my case about it. President Perry looked sort of philosophical and said, "Oh, Jack, I think I have the solution. Don't give them any more 8 o'clock classes."
And in that day and age, it was not taken for granted that you would go to college. College was sort of seen as something that you aspired to, perhaps, but was a little bit almost beyond our reach.
The community was 100% behind getting the college going and getting it going in a nice way. The Sinclairs gave their house. I thought, geez, if we accept any more houses, we're going to be stuck downtown.
And one day I can still see myself in my kitchen. And the phone rang and I picked it up and I was told that Arthur Houghton would be willing to donate land on top of Spencer Hill.
Dean Deringer came to my classroom on the 2nd floor of Houghton House, and he knocked on the door and he said, "As soon as your class is over, you get over to School 3. The president has something to tell everybody."
Dr. Perry actually came out of his office, jumped over his secretary's desk, got the head custodian to go down and buy a bottle of cognac.
And he said, "I want you to know this before the whole community because it's going to make the newspapers tomorrow."
He announced the gift of the 250 acres on the top of Spencer Hill by Arthur Houghton.
He said, "We are moving up on Spencer Hill campus to our brand new facility."